Hey, it's Alexia, and recently I've been asking myself, who am I trying to look hot for? And part of that answer is myself, and the other part is definitely strangers on the internet. And I know it sounds weird when I put it that way, but it's true because we are mainly connecting via the screen, right? That's where the eyes and the audience is. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to wanting validation and wanting other people to like you. It's a human thing, of course, but sometimes it can turn unhealthy when it becomes a habit, and it can also be really subconscious too. You may not even realize that the things that you are doing is because you want to be liked by other people. And I was thinking about how I wanted to enhance my physical appearance and have like a bit of a glow up. I was just thinking about what I want to do with my hair, and I just stopped and just asked myself, who am I doing this for, and why do I care so much? Like, what is the point of any of this? I don't know about you, but I am tired of trying to be pretty, and it's really exhausting putting in so much effort into my physical appearance when really no one else is paying attention. And if you think about it, when you are on Instagram or you're out in public, you're not really paying attention to other people unless they have some value to us, if they provide us something useful or inspiring. I know that when I'm on Instagram scrolling through, I can't even remember any selfie or any picture of somebody. So unless you're Billie Eilish with that Vogue cover, or Olivia Rodrigo, no one is really paying attention to the way that you look, which is frustrating, but it's also really liberating because then it allows you the chance to dress the way that you want to and to really express yourself the way that you see fit, instead of the way that society wants you to look. And personally, through my own reflecting about self-image, I've come to this understanding that I used to, and honestly still do, tie a lot of my confidence and self-worth into how attractive and desirable I am, which, yes, sounds really messed up in a way, but it's true, and I think a lot of you feel that way, and it's also something that I'm personally working on. But even though tying my worth to my attractiveness is no fault of my own, the origins of it aren't, at least, because the patriarchy, but it is my responsibility to be aware of this and also to just enact and enable more self-awareness and well-being into my life. So I thought that we could break this down together, and I have my notes right here so I can keep track, because I have ADHD and I cannot for the life of me stay on one topic, so I will be referencing my notes. So let's start with 1, the patriarchy. Yes, we do live in a society that prioritizes men and views men as more powerful and important and authoritative, and whether that's subconscious or not, right? And this isn't up for debate, so if you think it is, then just click out of this video because it's not for you. But this does run back to the beginning of time, and I think as a whole that there is a decent amount of internalized misogyny that is to be dealt with. And that doesn't mean that we are powerless. It just means that there are a lot of conditioned beliefs that are stacked against us. But again, it's something to work on. And I wanted to put a disclaimer. I don't think anyone is a perfect feminist. That does not exist. But we can try to become as compassionate and aware and educated as possible. But this takes accepting that you don't have all the answers and that you aren't a perfect person with the best morals. We are all really learning together, so let's just remember that and create a really comfortable space for each other. Anyway, I had to say that because anytime internalized misogyny is mentioned in like a post or a video, I see a bunch of comments saying like, I believe in equal rights and I'm not sexist and blah blah blah, which I know people are saying that in good faith, but honestly, it lacks a deeper awareness of the subconscious programming that we have and the systems in place around us. So it's really important to acknowledge those to make change. And if you don't know what internalized misogyny is, I'll put a little definition here. Internalized misogyny is when women subconsciously project sexist ideas onto other women and even onto themselves. So an example of this is saying that you don't hang out with other women because women are dramatic and too emotional, right? I've heard a lot of people say that before. And this is a common thing among quote unquote pick-me girls, which is a whole other video topic in itself. But the point is, it's important to recognize that that internal dialogue, that internal misogynistic dialogue can happen, and that's okay that it's there because it's not your fault. But once you are aware of it, we can start to make change. So this leads me to the male gaze, and I'm going to read a definition that I found for sake of conciseness. In feminist theory, the male gaze is the act of depicting women and the world in the visual arts and in literature from a masculine heterosexual perspective that presents and represents women as sexual objects for the pleasure of the heterosexual male viewer. That was a really long definition, but I think it's pretty comprehensive. So the male gaze is a big part of why I attach my worth as a woman into how attractive I am. And it's shown in media across all genres ever since we were young. And the internal male gaze is what looks at you and says, you know, how can you be more pretty? How can I make you more attractive? And side tangent, pretty is also something really nuanced because it's a concept derived from both Eurocentric and fatphobic and kind of capitalist beauty standards. And beauty and fashion trends are constantly changing and they're evolving all the time. So it's impossible to keep up. And we're also doing ourselves a disservice by trying to fit ourselves into a certain trend or a certain look. And the best that we can do is create our own unique sense of self, which is so liberating and exciting. But getting back on topic, the internal male gaze wants you to look and behave desirable, and this could lead to a hyperfixation on your looks. This is when you are either by yourself or going out in public, and I know quarantine taught me that I wasn't really putting on makeup for myself, it was for other people. And I also noticed that if I go to hang out with like a guy friend, I feel this urge to like put on makeup and look presentable, even if I'm not at all trying to like do anything with them. I'm not attracted to them. I just see them as a friend, but it's for the male validation. And another example is sometimes when I'm alone, I mentally kind of view myself from a third person perspective. So just to see if I'm like sitting or like resting my head in just like a cute way. And I know that's like weirdly specific, but it does happen. And I want to know if you guys have experienced this too. So please leave in the comments like if you also do this, because it'd be great to know that I'm not alone in this. Personally, I have found that desirability is linked to femininity, and femininity today is seen as like a certain set of characteristics and behaviors that are associated with women. And it's definitely a social construct. I know there's some debate about like biological influences, but generally it's socially kind of made up. And typically women are expected to be sweet and nurturing and kind and submissive, and to exhibit those behaviors and to exhibit those qualities through the way that they dress and the way that they talk and the way that they, you know, do their makeup, whatever. This can mean wearing clothes that are accentuating your figure, or clothes that are typically like pink and flowery and, you know, seen as feminine. And the issue with beauty being tied to femininity is that it plants this idea that we have to express femininity in order to be recognized as a woman and adhere to social standards and therefore be safe from judgment and ridicule. And this can cause trouble for people who want to dress outside of femininity and be more fluid with their gender expression or their gender identity. And since gender has for so long been seen as binary, people often feel the need to adhere to one or the other to feel safe. And I'm glad that now now there's more awareness of gender fluidity and just allowing all of those different nuances of gender to come into place. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done in that department, but I'm glad that there is more awareness of it now. And personally, I feel like I want to express a part of myself that is not really fitting into the typical feminine look, but it feels really scary, number one, and also feels really off-putting because I'm afraid that my worth and my desirability is going to lower because of it. And I know that sounds really messed up, and it is, but I want to be honest and just express how this is personally affecting me. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I also want to talk about how the male gaze can also confuse people with their sexuality. And since the male gaze, of course, prioritizes men, sometimes we confuse the need for validation from men as attraction to them. And this was something that was really, really interesting for me to learn this year. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of comp het, which is compulsory heterosexuality. And there's this whole like lesbian master doc that has gone around TikTok. I'll link it down below so you can check it out. It's a really great resource, and it has so many great examples of how the male gaze can affect you in just day-to-day life and very like specific examples. So if you are feeling like you're questioning your sexuality or just want to learn more about the male gaze, I would definitely look at that because it feels really comprehensive. I know it's not entirely so, but I think it's a really great place to start. So with all of this said about beauty standards, about social media, about that pressure of like beauty trends, and also the pressure of like femininity and all of these different attributes that we associate with desirability, this question comes up. So how do we make authentic decisions instead of ones that are socially conditioned? And there's obviously not one method for this, but something that I like to ask myself is, am I doing this for my own joy, or am I doing this because I think people will find me more desirable? And this can get a little tricky because sometimes my joy can stem from other people liking me, but eventually you have to listen to your intuition and it'll let you know what the answer is. And obviously with more time and experience of asking yourself this, you'll be able to filter out what is in line with your intuition and what's coming from like an external source. That's a question I've been trying to ask myself recently. There's also another thing too. If you want something because of FOMO, a fear of missing out, then you probably don't actually want it. It's just because you feel like you're going to be missing out on something that everyone else is doing. So that's also another guiding thing. But my philosophy really is, as long as no one is getting harmed, just do what you want. And even though it's super amazing to be able to decipher your intentions and act out of alignment of your higher self, we can't be in constant 24/7 evaluation of our lives and our decisions, because that's not how we're supposed to be living life, and that doesn't contribute to well-being at all if we're constantly like psychoanalyzing. Not everything that we do needs to be labeled as feeding into the patriarchy or not, and I think that yes, it's important to decipher that for sure if it's harming people, but also I think sometimes not all of our decisions have to be that deep, right? Like if I want to dress up one day or put on mascara, I don't need to have like an existential crisis and like break down to see if this is feeding into the patriarchy or not, right? We can just do things, to have fun and to dress up. And I think the most powerful and radical thing that we can do is to do things that make us feel excited about life and make us feel confident and joyful. And sometimes I like to see myself and my human body as just an avatar in a video game that can dress up and decorate all I want. And sometimes it doesn't have to be any deeper than that. Conflicting message, I know. Care about and examine your life, but also don't do that too much. And it really is all a balancing act. I think the best way I can put it is to care enough about your well-being and your life to be able to be introspective and self-examine, so that you can make the decisions aligned with your happiness. So that is all I have for you today. I also recorded this for my podcast, as you can see by my mic setup. So if you want to listen to just the audio, I've got the links to it down below. And I would love, again, if you could share any of your experiences about the male gaze, wanting male validation, anything about self-worth and beauty standards, any of that stuff. I really love to hear other people's perspectives and experiences, and maybe you guys can have like a nice sharing party in the comments. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. Bye.